everyone, welcome back to We Love PMO, the show where we simplify the complex world of project, program and PMO management. I am your host Sarah, and this is your first time tuning in, welcome. Don't forget to hit that follow or subscribe button so you don't miss any notifications for when a new episode is released. So, in last week's episode, we were starting to discuss the basics of project management and the project lifecycle. In today's episode, we're going to talk more about the basics and the importance of defining scope. But before we delve into scope definition, I briefly spoke about in the previous episode the importance of revisiting the basics, even if you are a seasoned professional. So I'm just going to go over a few points that I didn't cover, as I promised I would do. The field of project management is dynamic, with new methodologies, new tools, new practices continually emerging. Revisiting the basics allows experienced professionals to stay updated on industry trends, ensuring they can adapt to those evolving practices and incorporating, those new methodologies into their skill set. I mentioned how it can prevent complacency. And in that dynamic field of project management, as I mentioned, that how those methodologies can evolve and the technologies can evolve, industries can change, it's really easy for seasoned professionals to inadvertently slip into a state of complacency. And there's that assumption that one has mastered the basics, and that can lead to a plateau in professional growth. And this stagnation is not just detrimental to individual development, but can also impact the success of projects under their leadership. Seasoned professionals accumulate a humongous wealth of experience and expertise, contributing to that perception of mastery. But however, it's essential to recognise that project management is not a static discipline. There's always new challenges, new methodologies, and technologies, especially in this day and age, are emerging continuously. And revisiting those basics serves as that reality check, dispelling the illusion of complete mastery and fostering a humble acknowledgement that there's always more to learn. The business landscape is subject to rapid changes, economic shifts, technological advancements, and industry disruptions. And revisiting those fundamentals helps professionals adapt to these changes. It encourages a mindset that embraces new methodologies, tools, and approaches. And that refusal to revisit the basics may result in clinging to outdated practices, which could in turn hinder a project manager's ability to navigate the complexities of the modern project environment. So in essence, revisiting those fundamentals of project management is not a regression to a novice status, but a strategic move for seasoned professionals. It's a commitment to stay relevant, be adaptable, and to continually improve. It's a mindset that not only benefits individual careers, but also contributes to the overall success of projects and the project management community as a whole. So, I'll leave it there for going back over the fundamentals. And as I mentioned at the start there, we're going to talk a bit about scope. Definition. So let's talk about scope. And if you are a newbie to the world of project management and not sure what scope means, scope is a bit like your North Star. It guides us, it helps keep us on course, and ensures we don't veer off into an uncharted territory. Scope is like that boundary that defines what's in and what's out of your project. It's about being really crystal clear on what your project aims to achieve, and just importantly, what it doesn't. And one of the biggest challenges in project management is that notorious scope creep. It's like a sneaky little monster that lurks in the shadows, threatening to derail our projects. And scope creep happens when we start having additional tasks or features that are added into the project without proper approval. But our scope definition, which is what we'll do right at the start of the project, acts as our shield against that scope creep monster by clearly outlining what's included, what's not, and we create a baseline for expectations and avoid unnecessary deviations that can throw our project off course. So that scope, it serves a bit like a foundation for decision making. it kind of lays the groundwork for every decision the project manager undertakes throughout that project life cycle. The scope acts as our guiding principle. It helps project managers navigate challenges and make informed choices that align with the project's overarching objectives. It also helps us to establish those project boundaries. It defines, as I mentioned, what's in, what isn't, what's part of the project work. So it's a really fundamental role, and it provides that clarity which is indispensable when formulating, your project budgets, your schedules, how you're going to plan everything. By explicitly outlining that project scope, the project manager is able to create a framework that guides those budgetary decisions and facilitates that development of a project timeline that is realistic. Project scope stands a bit like that intricate blueprint. It's the ultimate achievements envisioned at that project's culmination. It encapsulates not only the envisioned outcomes, but also crucial elements such as the designated time frame, financial allocations, and all those other pertinent project parameters. But unfortunately, the task of clearly defining a scope can be frequently mishandled by many companies and organizations. And this oversight can carry, oh my goodness, such substantial repercussions, ranging from significant cost overruns, unwanted delays, inaccurate estimations, and insufficient resource scheduling, among many other adverse outcomes. And in reality, those repercussions are due to a poorly defined project scope, which extends to being a principal factor which contributes to project failures. And addressing and refining the definition of that project scope is such a pivotal step in steering projects towards success and averting those pitfalls associated with inadequate planning and articulation. So it's such an important fundamental step of any project to ensure that you have got that scope defined down, and also making sure that your stakeholders, your project team, all have the same understanding of what the scope is and what is in and what is out. Now, there are a few common mistakes that I'm just going to mention that you can avoid to prevent scope creep. So having an unclear initial scope definition. So the mistake there is having a lack of clarity in defining what the initial scope sets the stage for ambiguity and misinterpretation. But if we invest the time at the beginning and the effort in a thorough initial scope definition, if we can clearly outline our project objectives, our deliverables, and our constraints, and also, as I mentioned, having engaged stakeholders share the understanding, that can really help make sure that our scope is clearly defined. Communication with our stakeholders is another area that we can cause scope creep to come in, because if we have poor communication with our stakeholders, it can lead to misunderstandings and unapproved changes. And the way that we can try to prevent this is by establishing robust communication channels, keeping those stakeholders informed about the scope, the changes, what the impact of potential changes are, and encouraging open dialogue to address concerns and expectations. Now, just because we do have a scope defined at the start of the project, things can change, but it's just making sure that there is a clear change management process in place and that we go through the right channels if we do need to make a change to the scope at all. Undefined project boundaries, if we fail to establish clear project boundaries, that can allow potential scope creep to come along. So again, to try and prevent this, it's clearly, making sure what is included in a project and what is not. It can help us manage what our expectations are and prevent unauthorized additions. And risk management plays a huge factor into this as well, because while we are in that scope definition stage, if we ignore any potential risks that would be associated if we made a change to that scope, then that can lead to humongous project disruptions. So to prevent this from the get-go, right from the start of our project, right at the beginning, if we can conduct a thorough risk assessment, consider the impact of the scope changes across the timeline, the resources, the budgets, and develop contingency plans to address those potential risks and uncertainties that are associated with those scope modifications. And by addressing a few of these mistakes that I've just mentioned, project managers can establish a solid foundation for scope management, minimizing the risk of scope creep and fostering successful project delivery. So that is a wrap for today's episode. If you found this episode helpful, or if there's a specific topic you'd like us to explore in future episodes, let us know. Don't forget to hit that follow or subscribe button, because by doing so, you'll be the first to know when we release new content. We love hearing from you, so if you have any questions, insights, any project stories you'd like to share, do drop us a comment below. Don't forget to follow us on our social media channels. So you'll find us across on Instagram at We Love PMO. You'll also find us at our website at www.welovepmo.co.uk. And there's a handy free project management 101 guide that you can get by signing up on our website. So don't forget to grab that. Okay, well, I look forward to our next episode, and thanks for tuning in.